Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we shortcut the process for you. We take sources, articles, notes, and boil it all down to the key insights.
Helping you get well-informed faster.
Exactly. And today, we're plunging into financial education, personal wealth, looking closely at Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
A really influential book for many.
Definitely. Our mission really is to unpack what financial intelligence means and maybe challenge some common ideas about money.
Right, because the core idea here, I think, is that our normal schooling often skips something vital.
Which is?
Well, how money actually works, and maybe even more important, how you make it work for you instead of you just, working for it your whole life.
Okay, so right off the bat, Kiyosaki makes this point that really sets the scene. He says money stuff that's mostly taught at home, not in schools.
And he argues that because of this, a lot of us sort of accidentally pick up what he calls a poor person's financial programming, a specific mindset.
That sounds a bit harsh.
Yeah.
But I see the point.
It's a striking way to put it, yeah. But it helps explain something puzzling. Why really smart, highly educated people, doctors, lawyers, accountants, you name it, can struggle with money.
Right. They have the professional skills.
Exactly. Schools are great for that. Scholastic skills, professional skills. But financial skills, financial literacy, often not really there.
He even controversially links this to things like national debt.
He does. The idea being that even highly educated politicians might be making huge money decisions without, specific financial training. It's a bold claim.
And to make this tangible, he uses his own life, right?
Yeah.
The two dads.
Yeah, the contrast is stark. His own dad, the educated dad, highly qualified, government job, stable.
And the advice was predictable.
Very much so. Stay in school, study hard, get a safe job, good benefits. The standard path.
Then there's the rich dad, his friend Mike's father.
Right. An entrepreneur, much more financially successful, apparently.
Yeah.
And his advice, totally different.
What with it?
Essentially, learn how money works so you can make it work for you.
That's the key phrase again.
It is. And it's important both dads valued education, let's be clear. But why they valued it was different.
Educated dad for job security.
Rich dad for financial freedom, to learn how to have money work for you, not just how to work for money. It's a subtle shift, but it changes everything.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics. This is where it gets, really interesting and maybe a bit upside down for some folks. The definition of assets and liabilities.
Absolutely fundamental. And Kiyosaki's definitions, they really challenge the conventional wisdom.
So what are they? Break it down.
Super simple, actually. An asset. It's just something that puts money in your pocket. Think cash flow in.
Okay, like rental income or dividends.
Exactly. And a liability is the opposite. It takes money out of your pocket, cash flow out, like a par payment, or often, he argues, even your own house mortgage payment.
That's the controversial bit, the house part.
It definitely gets people talking. But his rule number one for getting rich is just this. Know the difference and buy assets. That's it.
It sounds almost too simple.
And that's his point. He says adults often miss it because we're educated differently. Maybe think it's, demeaning to focus on such simple definitions, or it just flies in the face of what we think we know.
So this financial illiteracy, it's not just about complex math. It's about understanding these basic words and cash flow patterns.
Precisely. Because, as he says, it's not how much money you make. We hear that a lot.
Right, it's how much money you keep.
That's the one. And keeping it depends on knowing what actually builds wealth assets versus what drains it liabilities. You can earn a huge salary but still be financially illiterate if you don't get this.
Working harder and harder.
Because your money isn't working hard for you. You're just funding liabilities.
Which sounds like this cycle he talks about, the rat race. What exactly is that? How do you know if you're stuck in it?
The rat race. It's such a vivid image, isn't it? It's that pattern. Get up, go to work, pay bills, repeat.
Over and over.
Day in, day out. And he argues it's driven by two big emotions. First, fear.
The fear of what?
Not having enough. Fear of bills, getting fired, the mortgage. Basic survival fear, really. And the second emotion.
Greed.
Well, maybe desire is a better word. Wanting all the nice things money can buy. A bigger house, a new car, vacations.
And the trap is, when you get a raise,
your spending goes up too, almost automatically. Lifestyle inflation, bracket creep, whatever you call it. You use credit cards, maybe take out a home equity loan.
and you're deeper in debt, even with more income.
Exactly. You're like that donkey chasing a carrot on a stick. Always reaching, never quite getting there, just working for the owner of the carrot.
The Mrs. Martin story in the book, dusting cans for pennies,
Yeah.
that really stuck with me, just grinding away.
It illustrates the cycle perfectly, and he makes a great point. Even wealthy people can be trapped, not by needing money, but by the fear of losing it. They become, as he puts it, highly paid slaves.
So it's about mastering the emotions, too.
Definitely. Rich Dad's view was that emotions are just energy in motion. You need to learn to use fear and desire for you, not let them run you. Master the power of money, don't be scared of it or enslaved by it.
Okay, so if the rat race is the problem, what's the escape route? He talks about minding your own business. What does that actually mean? Sounds a bit isolationist.
No, it's not about ignoring others. It means shifting your primary focus. Most people mind their employer's business, right? They work for a paycheck.
That's the definition of a job.
Right. Minding your own business means focusing on building your business, which is your asset column, keeping it strong.
The things that put money in your pocket.
Exactly. And the philosophy is powerful. Once a dollar goes into your asset column, never let it come out. Think of that dollar as your employee.
An employee that works 24/7.
Yep. And can work for generations. It makes money while you sleep. He uses Ray Kroc, the McDonald's guy, as an example.
What was the insight there? Selling burgers.
Everyone thought he was in the hamburger franchise business. But Kroc himself knew his real business, his core asset, was the real estate. The land, the location.
The corners.
The best corners all over the world. McDonald's is now one of the biggest real estate owners globally, not just a burger chain. That was minding his own business, the asset column.
It makes me think of that story from his childhood, the comic book library.
Yeah, that's a great little micro example. They weren't getting paid for working at the store.
So they had to get creative.
They were forced to use their imaginations, as he puts it. They found a way to make money independently with the comics working for them even when they weren't there. That's the principle.
And this links to buying luxuries, right? There's a specific order he recommends.
A crucial difference. Rich people, financially free people, they buy luxuries last.
With what money?
With the income generated from their assets.
Yeah.
The assets pay for the toys. The poor and middle class, they tend to buy luxuries first. Often, yeah, going into debt to look rich. And then, ironically, they might end up resenting that very luxury because the debt becomes a burden. It's backward.
Okay, another big and maybe contentious area is taxes and corporations. How the rich play the game smart, as he says.
Yeah, this definitely pushes some buttons. He challenges the whole Robin Hood idea, take from the rich, give to the poor.
He thinks it backfired.
He argues it did, historically.
Yeah.
That the middle class and poor ended up bearing the heaviest tax burden, ironically. But his main point is about understanding the system. Corporations, for instance.
What's the key insight about them?
They started way back, sailing ship days, mainly to limit risk for investors. But fundamentally, a corporation is just a legal structure. A legal body without a soul, as the book says.
And the advantage.
Protection for wealth, sure, but also significant tax advantages. Corporations often pay lower income tax rates than individuals, and crucially, they can pay for certain expenses before taxes are calculated.
Right, using pre-tax dollars. That's the big difference. Give me some examples.
Well, things like structuring a vacation as a legitimate board meeting, or car payments, insurance, repairs. Maybe even health club dues, if justified as a business expense. Restaurant meals, partially expensed.
Things an employee just pays for with after-tax money.
Exactly. An employee earns, gets taxed, then spends. A corporation often earns, spends on legitimate business expenses, and then gets taxed on what's left. It's a huge structural advantage if used legally and properly.
He mentions the 1031 exchange, too.
Yeah, that's a specific tool in real estate, Section 131 of the U.S. Tax Code. It lets you defer capital gains tax when you sell an investment property if you roll the proceeds into buying another similar property.
So you're not avoiding tax forever, but delaying it.
You're delaying it, letting that money compound and grow instead of giving a chunk to the government immediately. As Kiyosaki puts it, working from January to May just to pay taxes, that's a high price for being intimidated by the tax system. The rich learn the rules and play smarter, often using corporations.
Beyond just making money, there's this emphasis on learning. Working to learn, not just to earn. That feels counterintuitive in a career context.
It really does flip the script. Think about the educated dad's advice. Specialize. Get really good at one thing to earn more or get promoted.
Standard career advice.
Right. But the rich dad, his philosophy was about acquiring a range of skills. Kiyosaki talks about joining the Marines.
To learn to fly.
Yes, but more than that, he says, to learn to lead, how to manage people, because that, he realized, is vital for running any business managing systems.
And this ties into his concept of financial IQ. It's not just one thing.
No, it's a combination. He breaks it down into 4 main areas of expertise. First is accounting.
Financial literacy, reading the numbers.
Exactly. Understanding financial statements, profit and loss, balance sheets. Second, investing, the science of making money, strategies, formulas.
Okay.
Third, understanding markets, supply and demand, what makes prices go up or down, technical factors, fundamental factors. And fourth, the law.
Which covers the tax advantages in corporations we just talked about.
Precisely. Knowing the rules of the game, tax breaks, corporate protections, that sort of thing. You need a bit of all 4 to have a high financial IQ.
He uses that McDonald's hamburger analogy again here, doesn't he?
He does. Lots of people are brilliant at making the product, building a better hamburger. They have a great skill,
Right.
but they know little about the business systems needed to sell and deliver that hamburger. Marketing, sales, operations. Those skills are just as important, maybe more so for financial success.
Like that artist story. Great painter, but
Terrible businessman. Wasted his inheritance on bad advertising because he didn't understand or maybe refused to learn sales and direct marketing. Thought it was beneath him as an artist.
so skills like selling, marketing, communication, negotiation, even handling rejection, they're critical.
Absolutely critical, Kiyosaki argues, even for professionals. He tells that story about the writer who wanted to be a best-selling author but hated selling.
And the punchline.
It says best-selling author, not best writing author. Ouch. But it makes the point you need those business skills too.
It really seems like the mindset, the internal stuff, is just as important as the external strategies, overcoming things like fear and doubt.
Oh, hugely important. He draws a line between cynics and winners. Cynics just criticize everything, shoot down ideas.
They see problems everywhere.
Right. Winners, he says, they analyze. They look for the opportunity even in setbacks, that doubt, that cynicism. He argues it keeps most people poor because they're too scared to act. They play it too safe.
Like that guy Richard, backing out of a good deal because of his neighbor.
Exactly. Listen to uninformed negativity and misdoubt. Doubt is expensive, as the book says. Very expensive.
And people have these I don't wants, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want the hassle of tenants, or I don't want to risk losing money in stocks.
And focusing on those don't wants, those fears, it just closes your mind. You shut off entire avenues like real estate or the stock market because the fear outweighs the potential freedom.
So you have to be okay with potential failure.
You have to reframe it. Kiyosaki says, for winners, losing inspires them. For losers, losing defeats them. Think about Rockefeller turning disasters into opportunities. Or Colonel Sanders.
The KSC guy. How many rejections?
Over 1,000. Turned down 1,009 times before someone finally said yes to his chicken recipe at age 66. That's incredible tenacity.
Wow. He also mentions arrogance. How does that fit in?
Arrogance, he says, is often just a cover for ignorance. People pretend they know it all because they're afraid to admit they don't. Truly smart people, they welcome new ideas, they listen more.
And they're okay with making mistakes when learning something new.
They have to be, because, as the book says, if you learn something new, you have to make mistakes to really get it, to fully understand it. Practice makes perfect, but practice involves errors.
Which brings us to that cash flow game he created. It sounds like a way to practice without real-world risk.
That's exactly the idea. It's a board game, yeah, but it's designed as a serious teaching tool. You learn how income statements and balance sheets interact, how money flows.
By doing it with play money.
Right. You can make mistakes, try different strategies, see the consequences without losing your shirt. The goal in the game is to get out of the rat race and onto the fast track, simulating building passive income.
And it reflects your real behavior.
Supposedly, yes. It engages your mind, your emotions. It's a more holistic way to learn about finance than just reading theory. It gets you involved.
Okay, so moving towards action. The source lays out several practical steps, like 10 of them, for developing your financial genius. Let's maybe highlight a few key ones. What about pay yourself first?
Classic advice, but crucial. It's about discipline. Before you pay your bills, before you spend on wants, you allocate money to your asset column, to your investments.
Even if creditors are pressuring you.
Especially then, Kiyosaki argues. Let that pressure motivate you to find ways to create more income rather than just raiding your savings or investments to relieve the immediate pressure. Build the asset column first, always.
Okay, what's another big one? Choose your thoughts carefully. The power of choice.
This one's more internal. It's about humility, really. Being open to learning from actual experts, people like Buffett, Soros, whoever. Don't just argue or dismiss ideas that challenge you.
Ask questions instead of criticizing.
Exactly. Be open. Avoid that arrogance we talked about. Choose to learn. Choose a mindset of possibility.
And who you learn from matters too, right? Choose friends carefully. The power of association.
Yeah, this isn't about ditching friends, but about consciously seeking out people who know about money, who are doing things financially. Learn from them.
Not necessarily copying them blindly, but
understanding their perspective. Smart investors, he notes, don't usually try to perfectly time the market. They get positioned for the big waves, the long-term trends. Being around people who think that way helps you see those opportunities too.
okay, one more key step. Let's revisit work to learn, not for money. How does that translate into practical action?
It means prioritizing skill acquisition, especially those diverse skills that build your financial IQ, over just chasing the next pay rise in a narrow specialty.
Like taking a job that pays less but teaches you sales or management.
Potentially, yes. If that skill helps you build your own business or manage investments better later on, the ultimate goal, he stresses, is to convert your earned income from a job into passive income from assets or portfolio income from investments as fast as possible.
Because passive income is taxed less.
Often, yes. That's part of understanding the law aspect of financial IQ, but mostly because passive income is the key to freedom. It's money working for you, freeing up your time. Building those systems is the core task.
So wrapping this deep dive up, our goal is really to bring you some maybe unconventional ways to think about money, getting beyond the standard advice.
Right, into this idea of financial intelligence. And the big takeaway, I think, is that wealth isn't purely about working harder. It's about understanding the game, understanding how money works, and then making it work for you.
That Bill and Ed pipeline story really drives it home.
It's a fantastic analogy. Ed hauls buckets of water that's like working for a paycheck. Hard work, day after day.
Gets paid per bucket.
Exactly. Bill, he disappears, then comes back having built a pipeline.
A system.
A system. It delivers water cheaper, cleaner, 24/7. Bill created an asset that generates ongoing passive income long after the initial work was done. That's the difference in thinking.
So true. It really is what's in your head, your financial education. That determines what ends up in your hands. Money's just an idea. And the advice. Don't play it safe, play it smart.
Absolutely, because as the source suggests, opportunities are everywhere, all the time. Life hands them to you daily. But we often don't even see them if our financial programming is limited.
So the choices we make today matter most.
They determine your future and your kids' future. It's about the choices you make now, not someday, not tomorrow.
So reflecting on all this, what stands out to you from this deep dive? What ideas might you choose to maybe explore a bit further in your own financial journey?